Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Legit Football NFL podcast. I am your host, Kevin Phillip Fox. Started a little late. We had some technical difficulties today, but that never stops myself and that never stops my man, producer, and host extraordinaire, Anthony Weiner with the walk-up music. Anthony, how are you, my brother?
Hey, I'm good. I'm excited to be on the show once again.
Hell yeah.
It's Monday. There's a week full of possibilities, and I'm excited to talk about some of the breaking news that came out very recently that we're going to cover just in a minute.
Oh, yes, my good sir. We have a very, very entertaining episode for the listeners. I really do hope we still have the great Joe Crack and the great Armand in the chat. Oh, yeah, baby. We did not lose Armand. How could we possibly? K Fox and A Train. Armand is sending a shout out our way. Armand, shout out back to you, my good sir. Anthony, how's about we get into our legit headlines? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we usually save our plug for the end of the show, but we're going to be trying things a little bit differently these days. Our legit headlines are pulled directly from the Legit Football Daily newsletter, which goes out Monday through Friday. It's one of the best sources to streamline your NFL news into a 5-minute read every single day directly into your inbox. If you don't read Legit Football, then you're probably a nerd. Anthony, agreed?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So don't be a nerd. Read Legit Football. You can go to legitfootball.com to subscribe. Anyways, let's get on with the show.
Let's do it.
The Tennessee Titans are signing wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year contract. This contract has a base salary of $12 million in the first year plus $3 million in incentives. The Patriots and Chiefs also expressed interest, but were not willing to top Tennessee's offer. Hopkins, age 31, will immediately assume wide receiver 1 duties in Tennessee. He joins wide receivers Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akine, and Kyle Phillips, a trio that combined for just 96 catches last season. Hopkins averaged 7 catches for 79.7 yards and 0.3 touchdowns per game in a suspension-shortened season with the Cardinals in 2022. Now, as for the Patriots, they're going to have to move forward with Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, and Tyquan Thornton at receiver. Any money New England had earmarked for Hopkins can now be used to add potentially running back Delvin Cook, who the team is reportedly extremely interested in signing. As far as the Chiefs go, with Hopkins out of the picture, Kadarius Toney has the clear-cut path to the wide receiver 1 duties in Kansas City. Anthony, a lot of dominoes falling when a great, great player like DeAndre Hopkins picks a team. Which domino is the biggest to you and why?
I want to say the Patriots. I feel like they were down a lot, and Hopkins would have been the addition to maybe make Mac Jones competitive. But without having a superstar like Hopkins, they're going to have to rely on the receivers that they do have and maybe look into next year's draft. I don't see anything happening in their favor. I don't even see Tennessee making playoffs, even with the signing of Hopkins. That's a whole different conversation. But there's a lot that's happening here, and all the speculation going into the Hopkins signing, it all ends now. And yeah, now there's gaps where we thought there were going to be any gaps.
Yeah, it kind of seemed for a second like the Patriots would take a step forward with the Hopkins signing. Like it might give them another layer of, potency to the offense. We know we all love Ramondre Stevenson, right? I believe you actually mentioned you had thoughts that he might be contender for like a top flight fantasy back this year.
Yeah.
We all love, well, I guess that's really it, to be honest with you. So DeAndre Hopkins would have probably stepped in and been the most effective piece on that team. And so I like the pick of the Patriots being the biggest domino to fall, like where this domino affects them the most. For me personally, I thought he would have made Kansas City surefire, almost locks to be one of the greatest offenses of all time, like maybe in the 07 Patriots vein. So as a Bills fan, I'm ecstatic that DeAndre Hopkins is not in Kansas City. You obviously know, and everybody who listens knows how badly I wanted him in Buffalo. That ship sailed a long time ago. I think I've kind of given up on that. But Tennessee, it's a really interesting landing spot for Nuke Hopkins. How do you see him affecting Tennessee, Mr. Anthony?
I think that he showed up in Tennessee in the middle of, or maybe toward the end of a rebuild. So I thought with his age being a little bit older for today's receivers, that he was going to go try to be with a contender. And unless he thinks that Tennessee could be a contender, then I'm not sure what he's doing, because are we talking like 2 years in Tennessee and maybe a Super Bowl in 3 years? Like, I- I'm confused, because usually at that caliber, you want a win now team, and for him, that was going to be Kansas City. So when that was turned down, I was scratching my head thinking, why is he going to Tennessee?
Yeah, it kind of seems a little fraudulent, right? Because we heard all the reports. Oh, he wants to play with a great quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, middle of the
Right.
pack. Oh, he wants to play for a contender. I don't really think Tennessee's a contender. So
Not
it
yet.
kind of makes you question the legitimacy of a lot of those reports, or maybe the sincerity of Hopkins when he was saying all that stuff. I don't blame him for chasing the money, but I do think you can own it. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
So, Anthony, any other dominoes? As far as Tennessee goes, from my perspective, I think it makes them a little bit better. I think it takes them from who I thought would be a bottom feeder in the AFC. I think it takes them into that next tier of teams. I think that it takes them into
Maybe.
that, sort of, because I think the bottom feeders in the conference, we all know, but I think maybe now Tennessee might be able to contend for a wild card. They might be able to sneak in. Um,
Yeah.
let's really quickly address. Shout out to Armand for being a regular reader of the Legit Football Daily newsletter. That's why you're the GOAT. Armand says, I looked at the free agent market after the D-Hop news, and there are 3 wide receivers the Titans should bring into camp and battle for a roster spot. Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, and Antonio Callaway. A couple good, nice pieces there.
Yep.
I could see if the Titans are out of the playoff race, D-Hop could be traded to a contender. Yeah, that's not a bad call. Anthony, any other stuff on Hopkins that you want to unpack? I saw your eyebrow raise. I think you have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC South is starting to become more competitive, especially with the Jaguars being the Chargers in the postseason, and
Mhm.
Indianapolis in the draft. And so I think Tennessee is trying to take a step up in the AFC South and say, hey, we can play too. And I think that they are ready to show the AFC South, like, hey, we're that team that you're going to want to beat, because we're going to be that good. And I think that's what they're going for here. Hopkins, on the other hand, I'm not sure what he's doing, because Tennessee clearly is not a contender. Now, if they go and win a Super Bowl after I said that, then I will admit I'm wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I think you're in the clear on that one, buddy. I saw a really hilarious and I think sarcastic tweet that said the Titans odds before Hopkins signed were plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl, and after Hopkins signed, they are plus 8,000. um, so he's a needle mover in terms of helping them be competitive, helping them move the ball a little bit. Don't think he's a needle mover much at all in their quest for a championship. Armand, does the D Hop signing put the Titans ahead of the Colts?
I like this question. I have to say no.
Yeah, I'm okay
I have
with
to say
saying
no.
no. I think maybe for this year, maybe in the immediate short-term future, maybe. But I mean, the Titans, I think they're just clinging to the past by not moving on from Tannehill, by not moving on, not necessarily from Derrick Henry. I wouldn't really want to see them move on from Derrick Henry. He's still one of the best in the game, but
Right.
you could probably get some crazy assets if you flip Tannehill, Henry, Kevin Byard, start building around Treylon Burks, Will Levis, and that young core. But I mean, look, as long as you're in the middling tier of the AFC, you're kind of in purgatory a little bit. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, they have a stranglehold on that conference, even the
Right.
Ravens. So, I think, yes, Anthony.
Well, because it was 2022, and I'd be watching a Titans game, and I'd be like, "Oh, the Titans are gonna lose this one. Titans are gonna lose this one," and they were winning games, and we were all like, "Wait a minute, what? Like, what is this team?" That was when this whole supposed rebuild started. This was before the AJ Brown trade, but even without AJ Brown, they figured out how to win games. Maybe
Yeah.
we're overlooking the Titans, and maybe this move will put that to rest. And I think D Hop signing with the Titans might make, I don't want to say make them contenders, but maybe make wild card playoffs and then lose there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it moves the needle from like I said, they're going to move the ball more than they would have before. They're going to be a little bit better, a little bit more effective than they would have been, but I just don't see this getting them past the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Ravens. McFadden in our Slack channel was just very, very dismissive of this signing because our graphic designer Thomas Bray loves the Titans. He's been so high on them, even pre DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't want us to sleep on him. Me personally, Anthony, I got myself in my jammies. I got my little nightcap on, and I am firmly asleep on the Tennessee Titans. Respectfully.
Me too. Me
All
too.
right. Mr. Anthony, let's keep it moving to our next legit headline. Tyreek Hill claims he will break 2,000 receiving yards next season. Bro, I'll throw the bro in there. Hill made the comment on his podcast where he also appeared to predict a Dolphins Super Bowl win. The NFL record for receiving yards in a season is 1964, set by Anthony who? Megatron. Hill would need to average 118 yards per week to top 2,000 receiving yards in a 17-game season. Hill was on pace for over 2,000 yards, 2,085 to be exact, after 9 games last season, but saw his production decline once Tua Tagovailoa started to miss weekly games with a concussion. Weeks 1 through 9, he averaged 8.4 catches for 122.7 yards per game. Weeks 10 through 17, he averaged 5.4 catches per game for 75.8 yards per game. That's a nice little significant dip there. Hill admitted that he did not grasp the Dolphins' playbook fully last season, mainly got by on speed and athleticism. Is 2,000 yards feasible? With a better understanding of the playbook and a healthy Tua, 2,000, according to Legit Football's daily newsletter, does seem feasible, Anthony. Now, let's take our Madden caps off. Yes, it's the year of the quarterback. Yes, it's the year of the passer. Running backs are devalued. They're going to join the actors and the writers on strike, and I support them. But is this really feasible, Anthony?
Yes. That's
Okay.
if Tua stays healthy. I think that he has the ability to utilize Hill to his potential, to his athleticism. He knows how to pass the speed. I mean, he has Jalen Waddle too, who's also a very fast receiver. And so Tua just has a way of putting the ball exactly where it needs to be if you're running at 20 miles per hour. And I think that if Tyreek Hill is taking the time and putting in the effort to learn the playbook and get better at the position, then I do think that he can get the 2,000 yards because he won't only be depending on his speed and athleticism, but route running and release and getting space, like all those things. Now he can improve on, which makes him even better where he was already so good.
Yeah, and I like Tyreek Hill a lot as a weapon. I say that regularly. I think he's one of the most unique talents in NFL history. The way that he can just make so much happen with the ball in his hands after the catch, before the catch, running routes, getting open. He's not as much of a technician as like a Stephon Diggs or a Devontae Adams, but what he does with just sheer athleticism makes up for that in
Right.
a ton. So I'm gonna bet against it because it's never happened and it's just unlikely. Tua's health is a big factor. Waddle's resurgence or ascendance, I should say, is also a big factor.
True.
If Miami is this great juggernaut team that people are thinking they're going to be, will they really need to be throwing that much? A lot of the times people forget Steph Curry, the year he won MVP, the year he shut everything down, because the Warriors were such a dominant team, he missed a lot of fourth quarters. And that was true. That's been true of Josh Allen the last handful of years too. His stats are always a little lower because the Bills, who have one of the best knockout punches in the league, they're always up big in the fourth. So what's the point? If the Dolphins are that good, they're going to be running a lot more. They have Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert. Mike McDaniel comes from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, Anthony. So rushing is going to be a big focus. Are there enough roadblocks in the way to scare you or deter you off that prediction?
To me, it's not. It's more of it's less of a prediction than it is. I like the mindset that Hill has. I'm going to use an example. I went out to the golf course and I get on the course and I said, I'm going to break 100 today. I put that goal in my head, right? I hit 85. Now I was shooting to break 100. I got 15 under that. Because I had that goal set, I was still able to perform very well. So maybe he won't break 2,000 yards, but having that goal in his head, I think is going to encourage him to just work harder and just be better. So we could talk statistics all day, but I think it's the principle more than it is the number.
Yeah, so I really do want to highlight your focus on mindset there, because I do believe psychology and what's the term that I'm thinking of, visualization and all that, it's really important to success. If you're going to be a 2,000-yard receiver, you have to believe that you can be a 2,000-yard receiver. I couldn't agree more, Anthony, on that front. But as with my analyst cap on, with my logical cap on, and specifically for Tyreek Hill, there's just too many things in the way for me to, like you said, it's not a prediction, but it could happen. Yeah, maybe he's going for 2K and he ends up with 19 because he went for 2K. Chris Johnson was CJ 2K. He got there. I believe OJ got there. So it's not likely, but it is possible. And with the right mindset, it's more possible.
Right.
I'm going to bet against it. I'm also going to bet against his Super Bowl pick, but
it could be a scare tactic too.
Yeah, right.
Those defenses,
Yeah,
you know?
and I think it's going to work, obviously. Joe Crack, not going to happen. Joe Crack, Mike White's a dog. Joe Crack shouting out Russell Wilson's jiu-jitsu habits. I don't know if I'm too afraid of Mr. Unlimited myself personally. But he was talking about Tua doing jiu-jitsu. I see. Okay. Yeah, maybe that'll increase the likelihood that Tua's legit. And Armand is shouting out Jeff Wilson. True. I did forget about Jeff Wilson. Let's keep it moving. Our last legit headline, correct? Yes, sir. Yes, Bengals running back Joe Mixon agrees to take a pay cut to stay with the Bengals. The new deal is worth up to $7.5 million, $5.5 million base, $2 million in incentives in 2023. Mixon's original deal had a $9.4 million base salary, so the cut is roughly $3.9 million. In 2022, Mixon was inefficient as a runner, 814 yards and 7 touchdowns on 210 carries, 3.9 yards per carry. Not great. But he had a career year as a receiver, 60 catches for 441 yards and 2 touchdowns. His rushing numbers were indeed inflated by a 153-yard, 4-touchdown performance against the Panthers in Week 9. Pretty impressive numbers in that game. He did not have a 100-yard game any other game on the ground. Suspension. Mixon is facing a misdemeanor, aggravated and menacing charge for allegedly pointing a gun at a woman in a road rage incident. His trial is set for August 14th and could result in a suspension. The Bengals do have some running back depth. 2019 sixth rounder Travion Williams, who averages 5.1 yards per carry in his career, and rookie fifth rounder Chase Brown, who a lot of people are really high on,
like me,
could compete for RB2 duties in training camp this summer. Mr. Anthony, now we've been talking about this regularly on this show, the Joe Mixon pay cut debate debacle. Adrian and I were very heavy on team take the pay cut, stay with the contender. Anthony, how do you feel about this decision?
I love it when players do this. I've seen quarterbacks do it, and I have mad respect for them. It's like you're not making as much money, but you're allowing that team to pay for better chances of maybe contending or going and winning the Super Bowl. And so it's like, okay, am I going to get paid at the cost of not even making playoffs because I can't get our star receiver paid? Or my quarterback goes to a different team because they can't afford to pay them because they have to pay me because I'm such a good running back? And I feel like pride becomes an issue where you should just say, oh, $10 million a year might be enough. Let's go win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Anthony. And, I think for me, if I was like these guys, if I were like these players, I think I'd look for the incentive-laden restructures. Because, look, if Mixon ends up still being one of the top contributors on the team, he did take a step back in 2022, but, he's still Joe Mixon. I mean, he's still, one of the top 15 running backs in the league, maybe 20. He still has a lot of talent. He still, has, and yes, his stats did take a dip. 3.9 YPC is not good. But I think we can count on Joe Mixon being a decent piece and scoring some touchdowns and having a spike week here or there. So, if I like what you said about highlighting the team mindset, the Super Bowl chasing mindset, take the restructure. It's nice and polite and you're a good soldier. But let's not forget, if you're the one who's pulling the weight, then you deserve a little bit of love too. So incentive
True.
laden restructures like kind of get me going a little bit more than say just a base restructure for nothing. I do want to shout out Thomas has made it into the chat. What up, Thomas, the GOAT graphic designer? Joe, yes, indeed. Myself, Joe asks, would you draft Mixon in a PPR league? Based on what we just heard, it sounds like he was utilized last year in the passing game a lot more.
Right.
I'm projecting a huge season from Joe Burrow. So I personally like the pick. Anthony, how about you on the Mixon PPR train?
I think I would for like an RB2 or flex.
Yeah.
Because I do think he will get snaps, and he's still an effective player.
Yeah.
They rely on the pass game so much that when he's involved, he gets yards, he gets catches, and he gets touchdowns.
Yeah, so let's hope that continues. Thomas made a great point. If he didn't take that pay cut, he wouldn't get signed. He wouldn't get signed anywhere. We're seeing what's happening to Dalvin Cook. We're seeing what's happening to Kareem Hunt. Unbelievable that Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. The deadline came and went today, and they didn't get their deals. So clearly, there's a huge problem with the way that running backs are valued in the NFL right now. Right before I jumped on the show, I saw Austin Eckler with a really compelling tweet about the running back market. Anthony, I think the block is going to be so hot. I wouldn't be surprised. I joked about it at the beginning of the show, but why don't running backs unionize, man? Grab a sign and go protest with the writers and the actors, man. Running backs are being absolutely devalued. It's insane. Armand, Mixon would have been released. Yeah, everybody is on the same page here. We have Cook. We have Kareem Hunt. We have Ezekiel Elliott. We have Leonard Fournette. Joe, low key makes me sad about running backs. Anthony, you, me, and Joe, we're all around the same age. Golden age of running backs. We grew up watching LT. We grew up watching Sean Alexander.
Adrian Peterson.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely bonkers. And now we're looking at these guys at this position that's half the game. It's half the game on offense. You run a little less than half the time, and it's heartbreaking to see. So, hopefully, you got a couple, big hearts over here. You got some power to the people. You, me, we all want what's best for everybody, and the human side of sports is important too. So hopefully, running backs can figure this out, because you don't want that position to die the way fullback did. It's such a great position. Right. It's so fun.
Oh, it is. They put a lot on the line. So to get that amount of money for the little time you probably have at that position, you're putting your line. You're probably the one who gets hit the most at the running back position.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's cause for, like, say, oh, I kind of think I deserve more if I'm putting myself on the line for this team.
Yeah. And their shelf lives are so short, Anthony.
Yes, exactly.
When will we see equal opportunity for running backs? Ever?
Hopefully soon. I think with all this drama with Saquon Barkley and Eckler and Joe Mixon taking the pay cut, like, I just think all this drama around running backs is making them notice, like, they're being put on the map. And I think that they can't overlook it. They can't deny that it's happening. And they're like, oh, maybe we should discuss running backs. And I think that's going to be a discussion very soon.
Yeah, honestly, Anthony, that's a really good point. And I joke about the protesting, but I mean, I'd grab a sign. I just like with the actors, just like with the writers, I'd grab a sign. I'd go protest with those damn running backs. Seriously, something needs to change. Anthony, enough with the depressing state of running backs in the NFL right now. I think it's time for our main topic. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, baby. It's the main topic time. And, there's nothing better about being an analyst. Anthony, you've been at this for a second, but this is my first year, my first full off season. There's nothing better than putting your opinions in ink and allowing people to come back retroactively and dunk on you. So we're going to solidify our pre-training camp playoff predictions. And I don't know how far you intend to go with this. I was looking at seeding mostly.
That's what I was doing. I was
looking at seeding mostly, but we can talk predictions in the playoffs if you want. I mean,
I was thinking more along the lines, what if we kind of just say who's going to get the first round buys?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, predict the divisions. We're basically predicting standings for all intents and purposes.
Right. True.
So, if without further ado, we started with the NFC last week, Friday, talking about the greatest player on each team. This Friday, little plug here, we did the greatest player on each team in the NFC last Friday. If you haven't listened, please go listen. Me and the Wonder Twins absolutely dominated that episode. It was really fun. We had some great contributions from the chat. We'll be doing that again this Friday. We wanted to make sure we could get Wonder Twin Part 2 Tyler on the show. Shout out to Tyler if you're listening. But that being said, it's time. We're going to start with the AFC today just to mix it up a little bit. And Anthony, do we start with our top seed? Should we predict who gets the bye?
Let's do that. Let's start with the buys.
Okay, well, I am going to say the shocker of the century here. You guys are not going to believe this. You guys are going to gasp and get mortified. But my prediction for the first overall seed in the conference is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. Yeah. That alarm there is the Buffalo Bills police coming to arrest me for not being a good enough homer.
That was mine too. I gotta say Kansas City's probably going to make a return and get the first round bye. So that being said,
yeah,
is there going to be a Super Bowl hangover?
No.
You don't think there's any chance that they're hungover from the Super Bowl after they've appeared in the playoffs the last 5 years?
There's always a chance. I just think Mahomes is just so great. And Andy Reid is just such a good coach, and they had a pretty solid offseason. I made a comment in a video that I made for Legit Football saying they got better. And I had some people question whether or not they got better. I like some of the pieces that they added. I think they did lose a stud left tackle, but they got a stud left tackle. They bulked up the defense a little bit. A lot of their young guys are getting better. Mahomes with his tongue out. Armand agrees that KC gets the bye. Joe, I couldn't go Buffalo. I wanted to. And the crazy thing is, Anthony, anything more to say on Kansas City? Do you have any thoughts? Do you think they're going to have a hangover?
I think it's possible. I think that there are elements around the league that they are kind of like, okay, now we think we know how to stop them. And I think that they're going to figure out maybe how to stop the offense in Kansas City, stop Andy Reid. I think it's possible. The AFC is very competitive. So do I think they're going to make the bye? Yes. Am I 100%? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I like your analysis. I'm not 100% either. There's a couple great teams. I mean, obviously, the next two teams that we're going to bring up I'm guessing the next two teams that we're going to bring up, I think they will always have something to say about that darn first round bye, because both 2020 and 2022, Buffalo was a half a game away.
Right.
And, people forget they didn't even have the chance to win that game in Cincinnati. So even though Buffalo had the same number of losses as Kansas City, they did not have the chance to win that bye because Kansas City had a better winning percentage. So I think the only reason I didn't pick Buffalo, and spoiler alert, I'll just get into it. I have Buffalo winning the 2 seed.
Me too.
Again, nice. The only reason their schedule is just really hard. Like they're playing an absolute gauntlet of a schedule, especially towards the end of the year. There's a really, really difficult stretch. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am not afraid as a fan, and I don't think they're afraid at all. They've been doing this for a long time now. When you win more, you have a target on your back. People think they got exposed last year. I'm not one of those people. I think they're going to be right back where they always are, hosting a playoff game come January. Anthony, any disagreements there? Anything to add?
No. I think that they took some hits last year, and so they're gonna just come back stronger. It's what's the quote? It's not how many times you get hit, but it's about how many. No, wait, it's not how many times.
I think it's not how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get up, right, or something like that.
How many times? It's not about. Yeah, something. About,
I love it.
The point is, too, you're boxing and you get hit, you're gonna come back up stronger. So,
100%.
I think that Buffalo got knocked down, and now
Yeah.
they are going to come back stronger.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that the chances are just as good as they always are every single year that they're the team representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City's always going to be the favorite because of what they've proven to do. I'm a big fan of King of the Hill rules. Cincinnati's proven to be the only team who can knock them off. But Joe asks, Kadarius Toney do you see rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice being a factor? A little bit. Anthony, thoughts on Rashee Rice for Kansas City? Do you think he's going to be a big factor?
No, but I think he can be. I think that there's potential there. It's really hard to predict those kinds of things because, I mean, a 7th round quarterback went to the playoffs.
Yeah. No,
So,
you're right. Yeah.
It's really hard to predict like what play. I mean, a 1st round pick was so unproductive last year, and so it's really hard to say that. It really depends on the game plan and what Mahomes does, what Andy Reid does. So it really comes down to that.
You're spot on. And Joe said it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
That's right. I remember now.
There you go. And yes, Joe, nobody can cover Travis Kelce. So as far as the Bills go, they got better in my opinion. They have a tough schedule, so I picked them to be 2, and I'm comfortable with that, and I think so are you.
Cool.
Again, we're going chalk for the top 3. We might have flipped the order around a little bit, but those 3 teams are in cement. The Bengals are going to be the 3 seed in my opinion.
Bengals, yep, same. Bengals are going to get 3 seed.
It's just chalk. I mean, those are the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're always going to be the 3 dueling at the end of the season. They're always going to be the 3, whether it's
That was one of my my hype train things was quarterback rivalries, and so that I'm excited to see, especially in the postseason. And they've all seen the postseason multiple times now, and so now it's even going to be more exciting.
Yeah, and Anthony, a little chill went down my spine when you said that because I've loved the Bills for so long. I grew up in a playoff drought from the time when I was 9 until the time when I was 22. They never went to the playoffs. So I kind of thinking that 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and then again, if it's 2023, that's just a normal thing now. It's just an expectation. It's a beautiful feeling. You're going to get used to it as a Lions fan. I'm confident. Really quickly, before we get into our Bengals deep dive, Joe asks, who wins the linebacker job for Buffalo, Terrell Bernard or Dorian Williams? I'm rooting for Dorian Williams to win it because I like his traits the most. I do think the fact that you didn't include Terrell Dodson is wrong. I think he's going to be looked at with favor from the coaches because he's the one that's been there. But Dorian Williams has the most athleticism. The only problem is he's a little undersized and he plays very similarly to Matt Milano. So I don't know if they would want to put him next to Matt Milano. By the way, for anybody listening, Anthony Weiner projects Matt Milano to make the NFL Hall of Fame, and I love Anthony for that. I'll always bring that up when we talk about Milano on this podcast. Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool, no doubt in my mind he's gonna have people questioning whether or not he's the MVP this year. He's gonna have those beautiful targets, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. If Jimmy Ray were here, which we miss Jimmy Ray dearly, he should hopefully be back next week. He would probably bring up who's the tight end? Is it Irv Smith? Jimmy loves Irv
Smith Jr.
Yeah, for the Bengals. Their defense is a little sus, and I think we are already covered that Mixon was a little sus. So I'm not super in love with the Bengals as like a Super Bowl contender. I mean contender, yes, but pick. I think the defense, the running game, I think it'll catch up to them.
Hey, before you jump the gun, remember we're not talking Super Bowl yet.
That's right.
Right.
We're just talking seeding. Yeah.
We're just talking playoffs.
Anything else on the Bengals, Anthony, before we move on to our 4th team?
Joe Burrow is one of those names that we have not heard on a headline saying, is he healthy? Because he is. And that hasn't been out of the question. And so he's going into this season healthy. And I think that means a lot. We put the wide receiver trio as the best, one of the best position groups. And I think that all these elements come together. The only downfall, you already said it, is the defense. If once they figure that out, they're Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're wrong, Anthony. I think that's spot on analysis. Yeah, they lost Jesse Bates. They have been suspect against the pass specifically. Their defensive line is pretty damn stout, though. They took Buffalo's O-line to church in the playoffs last year, so can't count them out, right? Obviously,
Right.
I think we can agree there's a tier break after these teams, in my opinion. Let's give Armand a shout here. He's got KC, Jacksonville sneaking into the 2 seed, potentially. Armand, I'm gonna bookmark this. And Thomas will bookmark this. Thomas hates the Jags. Thomas thinks the Titans are gonna steal the AFC South. But yeah, can't say that I agree with you there. And Joe, respectfully, can't say that I agree with you here. Jags will be the 3 seed. I think
Speaking
Armand
of Jaguars, though.
tells me to bookmark it. Yes, Anthony, move on with your 4th team.
Yeah, speaking of Jaguars, they are my 4th team. And it's just when I saw that comeback win against the Chargers, I saw a team that if they just do that, but for 4 quarters, they can be a very dominant team. And I think Trevor Lawrence has learned a lot since the departure of Urban Meyer. And I think that Jacksonville is really making moves too. They're going to be on top of the AFC South for sure. So they're going to have a playoff appearance no matter what, because they're going to win the division. So I got Jaguars there, 4th seed.
Could not agree with you more, my friend. I would add, but I just think anything I say will subtract from the brilliant and succinct points you already made. I guess I'll just highlight that Armand is encouraging us to bookmark it, and Thomas is co-signing my agreement or my point that he would not be in agreement with Armand. Yes, we have to show some love to Calvin Ridley. He's going to transform that passing attack, a passing attack that was already pretty solid last year. Trevor Lawrence should, for all intents and purposes, be right up there with those big 3, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes. By the end of the year, he is the prince who was promised, as you know. So without further ado, Anthony, I'm comfortable solidifying our 4 division winners. We have KC winning the West. We have Buffalo winning the East. We have Cincinnati winning the North, and we have Jacksonville winning the South in that order.
Yes.
Anthony, hit us with your number 1 wild card team.
All right, this is fun because it's
Hot take
another
time.
AFC East team, the Miami Dolphins.
Bam!
You thought I was going to say the Jets.
No, I agree. I
okay.
was on the same page as you. I'm glad you said it. Number 5 seed. I agree.
Dolphins.
Could not agree more. Anthony, why are they the 5 seed?
Tua, Waddle, and Hill. I mean, even the running back, their running backs are even getting better.
Yeah,
and I think the offensive line's going to give Tua the protection that he needs to not concuss, I guess. And I think that there's been a lot of improvements in the defense. I do want to, because Tua Tagovailoa is a human being, so his safety matters. If he goes down and he's out for the season, I just hope that we can all just hold hands and sing Kumbaya and say we hope he gets better.
Seriously.
But I want to see him get healthy and win the season, go into the 5th seed of the playoffs. I want to see it, and I don't want them to go down because Tua goes down. That would be heartbreaking.
Yeah. Could not agree with you more, Anthony. Fantastic analysis as well. I'm going to lockstep with you here. Miami is my 5 seed as well. Similar points.
Wow, we're on the same page today.
Dude, so far we're 5 for 5, and I'm very surprised about it. Hopefully we mix it up a little bit at the 6 and 7. It's gonna get ugly though, because there's a lot of really, really good teams that in the AFC. It's the most stacked conference.
Yeah,
I mean,
quarterback
obviously
play is incredible.
Oh my God, from 1 through 5, there you could make a case that, I mean, there's a couple names not in there, but yeah, those are the quarterbacks in the AFC washed the quarterbacks in the NFC.
Yeah.
Let's address some things here because the chat's been lit on fire while we've been covering this. New nickname for Trevor Lawrence, Trippy Trev from Joe. I support. Armand, the Finns will make it only if Tua stays healthy.
Yeah.
Probably agree with you there. Although Joe did already say that Mike White was a dog. Thomas, not optimistic with Tua. Been hurt every year since the hip injury at Bama. Really hope he doesn't retire. Couldn't agree more, Thomas. Health is just like, it just shouldn't be a factor. I mean, it always is. You look at every year, there's always a contender who falls off based on all the injuries. You know, the bodies start to pile up. The IR list just gets longer and longer, looking like a damn CVS receipt. And then you got nothing to do but but pray that your team can withstand the injuries every year. Armand does not trust Mike White or Skylar Thompson to perform enough to get the Finns to the playoffs.
No.
Hey, Skylar Thompson proved that he had that dog in him in that playoff game last
He
year.
almost beat Buffalo.
He took Buffalo to
that was
to
a
10
fun
rounds.
game. Like, I mean, I'm not. It was stressful for you, but you got to admit it was kind of fun.
My heart absolutely stopped. And I'm gonna actually save the next comment from Joe because I want to go with my 6th seed team, and Joe and I are in lockstep here. And Anthony, you and I might be 6 for 6, but I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to be the 6th seed in the AFC.
Our streak has been broken.
Okay, here we go, baby. Okay, it's going to get weird. Let me make my case. I love Lamar Jackson. I'm projecting the best season from him as a passer in the NFL so far. I don't necessarily know if his passing and running will be as elite as they were in 2019, but I think he'll take a huge step forward from what we've been seeing. His weapons are great. They finally have a legitimate weapon set. The line should be sufficient enough to hold up. The defense is always great. Baltimore Ravens are just synonymous with great defense ever since Madden 05 when Ray Lewis was on the cover. I don't ever remember a time when the Ravens didn't have a great defense. I think they got that dog in them, and I think they're going to be the 5th seed, Anthony. What about you? Or 6th seed, I mean. Do you have Baltimore making the playoffs? Spoil your next 2. Do you have them?
No, I actually don't.
Anthony, ladies and gentlemen, Ravens fans, Anthony, what's your @ so they can come for you? This man doesn't have your team in the playoffs.
I don't. My Twitter is at Antman1934. I don't see it. I think there's just so much drama in there that they're forgetting to win games. I think that there's so much going on. That tension is building, and they're not able to put that energy out on the football field. There's just too much happening off the field that I think it's going to be distracting.
The drama's cooled off a little bit. It
has, but I just think that they're lacking talent, and I think they're lacking coaching, and I just don't see a very dominant team.
Interesting. I beg to differ, and we will see.
It's fair.
Joe shouts out Baltimore Rayer. Mike McDaniel lost the playoff game with it. Yeah, that was horrendous. Oh my goodness. It's because he was vaping. Mike McDaniel, don't vape in the playoffs. Lesson learned. And Joe predicts that OBJ will get hurt and they will sign AB. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they won't. I'm going to go out on a limb and say AB's played his last snap in the NFL. Me personally, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of hot takes.
I mean, no, Antonio Brown's done. I have an interesting 6th because it's still in the AFC East.
Right down the line. You're going right down the line.
New York Jets. I think that 3 of the 4 AFC East teams are going to make playoffs. That's my prediction. The play in those teams, I mean, the defense in New York, the offense in Miami, and just Buffalo being Buffalo. I see the Jets with Aaron Rodgers being up there, and they're really looking promising. We called this the pre-training camp predictions because we're just saying based off what we know about the draft and what happened in the offseason so far. And with that being said, I think the Jets are going to go 6th seed.
I don't hate it. I do think the Jets have as good of a chance as any team to make the playoffs. I'm going to have to do some soul searching while you tell me your 7th team to see if I think I can move the Jets up to my 17, because as of right now, I'm waffling, but I think I'm leaning no Jets, which you just made Armand the happiest boy in the chat, and I just pissed Armand off royally. So let's wait and see. I'd like to know Joe and Thomas's thoughts on the Jets prediction that you just made. But yeah, the defense is undeniable. Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams.
Breece Hall's going to be back.
Breece Hall is going to be back. Garrett Wilson should be a top 5 receiver in the league this year. So I don't hate the pick at all. I'm going to have to do some soul searching about whether or not I can comfortably move them into my 7. But Anthony, who is your 7?
The Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay. I can respect it. I can respect it. Tell me why.
I think Justin Herbert has had the talent the whole time, and I
Yeah.
think that there just has been so many holes in the team. He hasn't had what he needs to succeed. That's very reminiscent of a man named Matthew Stafford with
Mm.
Detroit. I feel like
Hmm.
it's a situation kind of like that.
Yeah.
If Eckler stays, he has Mike Williams and um
Keenan
Keenan
Allen.
Allen are
Yep.
both still catching balls from him. I just think that offense is it's stacked. That whole team is stacked, and I think that they just have to figure out how to go about that. The whole coaching conversation was on the line, saying that if they didn't make playoffs, that he was done. And I just think that they're gonna turn some things around. They're in LA, so the media is huge over here,
Yeah.
and I just think that there's a lot of factors that could bring them into the playoffs.
I think that's such a great pick, and that was my chalk pick for 7. And you know what, Anthony? I'm so sorry, Armand. Please don't hate me, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the Chargers my 7 seed as well. So
Okay.
we only differed on one team. Our seeding only differed on one seed. Yeah, Herbert. I've had his name in my mouth all off season. Chargers fans, for a video I released on my other show, Chargers fans are trying to cancel me. Um, I am withstanding the heat because I think Herbert's been anointed as a top 5 QB, and I think he needs to earn it before he gets that label. But this year is the year he can prove it, and the weapons he has, gaining Kellen Moore as his OC, in my opinion, Anthony, it's poop or get off the pot for Justin Herbert as an elite quarterback in the NFL. Family
That's
show.
funny.
So I think this is the year he does it. And yeah, I mean, they have great pieces all around. This is the year, and I'm really sorry to Armand for leaving the Jets off my list. Thomas Rogers had a top 10 offense in Green Bay. With Watson missing half the season, he will get New York into the playoffs. Bold prediction. Thomas, where do you have Tennessee? Do you have them as your 4 seed since you have them winning the South? Thomas loves the Titans, man, and I get it. Vrabel's great.
Yeah.
But Anthony, we do have a whole conference to get to,
Yes,
so let's waste no time, my friend. If the chat has anything more to say about our picks, please keep it on fire. You already know we're doing great at retroactively getting back. That's okay. Let's keep it moving, Anthony. Who's your number 1 seed?
Number 1 seed is in the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they're still going to be a good enough team to make it to that level. They're at that level, and they're going to try to make the Super Bowl again and win it this time. And Jalen Hurts is at the top of his game. Devontae Smith, and I'm saying that name before A.J. Brown because he still has development, and this might be a breakout year for him. A.J. Brown, he already broke out. He's already an incredible receiver. And you have all these guys a part of a team that lost in the Super Bowl. I think that they're going to make a run.
Wow. I absolutely love that. I agree. I have the Eagles winning. Their defense is stacked. Howie Roseman is offseason executive of the year, in my opinion. Unbelievable work in the draft, maneuvering. The running backs I'm a little nervous about. Penny and Swift are 2 of the most injury-prone running backs in the league.
That's true.
But I mean, Jalen Hurts does a fine job moving the ball with his legs. I have Jalen Hurts as a top 5 QB. He's the one name I've gotten the most flack for keeping him over Herbert, keeping Herbert out of my top 5. As I said, I knew the chat would get lit on fire the minute we moved on. Armand, SMH, I love the disrespect to the Jets. Thomas is locking in his prediction as the Titans winning. The NFC South, calling it a dogfight, coming out at 9-8. And Armand, we coming for everyone. We just don't want the smoke. We want the fire. Okay. I love it, Armand. Let's keep this banter going because we're fans of the 2 teams in the same division. So it's gonna get ugly at times, but the love is still strong. Anthony, we're in lockstep for the 1 seed. Anthony, who's your pick for the 2 seed?
I want to hear yours this time. I've been going first. I want to hear yours first.
This is tough, man, because there's a couple teams.
There's a hard one.
Yeah, right. There's a couple teams that I could see really heavily contending here. But I'm gonna be straightforward here. It comes down to the 49ers and the Lions for me. They're my 2 and 3 seed. I guess because the 49ers have been there and because they've done it, I'm going to go with the 49ers to be the 2 seed.
Fair.
Brock Purdy, if he comes in, starts 17 games, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Kyle Shanahan knows how to put his guys in the right place to succeed. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best players in the NFL. unbelievable defense, Anthony. When we did the exercise of ranking the best NFC players, we were stuck on the 49ers for like 10 minutes because we were like, and this player, and this player, and this player. They got that dog in them, and they're going to be hungry to prove that if they had a real quarterback, they could have taken the Eagles to a more competitive NFC championship last year. Anthony, who's your 2 seed?
I agree with the 49ers pick. I just think they have the moxie to succeed. And this was a hard one, which does bring my third one as the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
I do think that the Detroit Lions will find a way to get that 3 seed.
I agree.
Been a long time coming. A lot has changed, not only culture, but the whole roster. I mean, you have young guys, but now you have almost developed young guys, and you have these rookies picked. I mean, we had was it 6? Yeah, 6 picks in the first 60 picks. So, these are some talented guys that we were able to get early, right out of college. And if they can perform with the rest of the team around them, with some veterans in the backfield and in the secondary, I just think that, 3rd seed. Let's see it happen.
I absolutely love the pick, and I'm in lockstep. I agree, Lions. Goff going to keep proving the doubters wrong, formerly of which I was one of. I think he's going to maybe be a top 10 guy this year. Amon-Ra is going to be a fantasy MVP. He's going to win you your leagues if you can steal him later. Jahmyr Gibbs is good offensive line. Defense got better this offseason. Yeah, there's no need to.
We already have Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, there's no need to throw any shade on the Lions right now. I will say they have to do it. They have to prove it.
They have to do it. That's what I've been saying this whole time, is that we have to see it still. I can predict it all day. We can talk about it on paper all day, but it has to be. Games need to be won.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll say this before we move on to our number 4 picks, each of us. Thomas, I think the Cowboys will win the East this year. Eagles had so much go right for them last year. That is true. They had a very historically lucky year. I think the O-line and D-line revert back to the mean health-wise with Dak, and he's been great head-to-head against Philly. Yeah, I don't hate the pick. I don't agree myself. I haven't seen it from Dallas. They kind of consistently falter when the big lights are on. They didn't do a ton to really improve this offseason. I like the addition of Stephon Gilmore. They really only lost to Zeke. I can't think of any other major pieces they lost. Great O-line. Dak is great. I like Dak. Not necessarily proven to be super clutch or super good at winning games when it counts the most, but he's clearly a great quarterback. Can't hate on Dak. So I think let's move on. Let's do our 4, and then we'll maybe talk about the Cowboys in just a sec. Anthony, are you doing your 4 pick now?
Yeah, so in the South, I do have the Saints.
I like it.
New Orleans Saints.
I like it.
Chris Olave he looked really, really good last year. Now they have Derek Carr. So now you have a quarterback who can throw the ball better.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I think that the utilization there, and even Jamal Williams, if he does end up being RB1, he's a good back. And I think he underperformed in Green Bay because he didn't get the snaps he needed. And I think he's going to get that in New Orleans. Even in Detroit, I know most of his touchdowns were at the goal line, but he had 3 20+ rushes in 1 quarter at a time. Sometimes. So he's a great running back, and I think that they're really putting something together there. And the NFC South is still so like walking on thin ice with who's going to take it, that I think the Saints might be able to sneak out with the 9-8 record and make the playoffs.
No, I think you nailed it, man. I agree. I'm going to pick the Saints as well based on Derek Carr. He's kind of like the big reason why. I just think in terms of proven tried and true quarterback play, you're looking at a division with Desmond Ridder, and you're looking at a division with Baker Mayfield, and you're looking at a division with a rookie QB and Thomas.
Right.
I like Bryce Young a lot. I like the Panthers a lot. I think they're an ascendant team. I just think this year might be a little quick to project them to be that good. They could be. Bryce Young could go out there and just prove that he has that head on his shoulders and he's capable of being that guy right off the bat.
And we'll be able to get back to that mid-season after we see some stuff. So
we'll definitely pre-training camp.
Yeah.
I like the pick of the Saints. Olave is great. Kamara is still there. He didn't die. The suspension stuff and all that fear about Kamara was rampant last year, but he's still Kamara. So that's another one. I like Jawan Johnson, the tight end. There's a lot going on in that division. The Falcons deserve a nod. Maybe we'll talk about them in a second as well. But in the meantime, Anthony, it's time to get to our wild card picks. So who do you have as your 5 seed?
I do have the Cowboys at 5.
Same.
I think that the NFC East is going to be very competitive. It's so weird. I don't have the Giants on my list. And I started thinking, why don't I have the Giants on my list? But then I'm looking at who is, and I'm like, I think that these teams will best them. And I think the Cowboys are one of the teams that will best them.
Yeah.
I think that they have a lot going on over there. I know they have a habit of faltering when they're under pressure, they fail, and they're gonna have to fix that if they want to see the playoffs. But I do predict them taking the 5th seed here.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm glad we're talking about it because we're addressing Thomas's comments from a couple minutes ago. Defense will be one of the best, and turnovers won't be a problem with McCarthy leaning on the conservative side. I actually hate that for Dallas. Getting rid of Kellen Moore, who was one of the best OCs in the league, sending him to LA in a lateral move because they didn't want to, give him any sort of love. Don't love that. And there are some discussions that, they want to run the ball more and they want to be a hard-nosed physical team. And it's like, bro, that's cute. But it's like, it's not 1994, bro. That's not how you win Super Bowls now, man. You got to air it out a little bit. They shouldn't be. I agree, Thomas. They will be more conservative, but I don't think they should. So, I think that could cost them. And Thomas says Dennis Allen will hold the Saints back. Dalton was better than Carr last year. I don't agree. I think Derek Carr was playing out the string. Vegas, he lost his fire for them, and they pulled the rug out from under him. I think Derek Carr will go and prove some people wrong.
Me too.
In New Orleans. So next up, I agree with Cowboys. It's a good pick at 5. We already talked about them a great deal. So let's move into 6, and I will make the call here. I will plant my flag here. I'm gonna go with the Giants. I know you just said you have them off your list. I don't think you can keep the Giants out of the playoffs with Brian Daboll and company. I love him. I love the job Joe Shane has done building the roster. Darren Waller should improve the passing attack a lot. The defense was pretty solid last year. They're right in the same conversation as the Vikings of teams that were kind of overachievers last year. So it's tough to say whether or not I will slot the Vikings in at 7 or whether or not I will have a weird prediction at number 7. But Anthony, who do you have as your number 6 seed?
The Seattle Seahawks.
And
I can dig it. It's not even because of Geno Smith. The running backs.
Wow.
And what they're doing on defense. And I think that there's a lot going on around that's not the pass game that they were lacking last year. And I think that especially Kenneth Walker going into his second year after such an incredible rookie season.
Yeah.
I think that things are going to look really good for them. And they're in a division with the Cardinals and the Rams, who are both going through the motions. And I think that the Hawks will find a way, maybe not through San Francisco. That's a pretty fun rivalry when they do play.
Yeah, and they did it the same wild card match as last year. So good call.
So we might see a rematch there.
Yeah. So. And I'm just gonna say it because it's chalk, but I got the Seahawks as my 7 seed. You could really flip them in the Giants for me. It was kind of a coin flip there. I just gave it to Daboll because I just believe in him so much. So I'm gonna it was difficult for me to leave both the Falcons and the Commanders off this list because I do think that they both are sneaky teams that could make a push. Same with the Panthers.
I have a sneaky, or if you want to do your 7th now.
No, that was my 7th. Is the Seahawks because I have Cowboys, Giants, Seahawks. I'll flip the Giants and the Seahawks. I was overlooking them. I think I forget about. I love Geno. I love the receivers. I was being I was just trying to be hype about the Giants, but because you trashed them. So Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants will be my wild card teams. And then Anthony, you have one team left.
Yeah, sneaky 7th, the Minnesota Vikings.
Not bad. Yeah, I mean, they made it last year.
They did, in crazy fashion because they won so many close games.
Like 10.
Yeah, I mean, if they could just figure out how to do that again, they can make playoffs. I'm not going to say they're going to win the playoffs, but Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins, and he's not a bad quarterback. Then you have Justin Jefferson, probably the best receiver in the game right now. The best receiver in the game right now and a veteran quarterback. They've got to at least make the playoffs, even if that's just the 7th seed. Once that 7th seed was added, we've been seeing a lot of competition. So it's going to be hard. because it's always the last 2 seeds that's so hard to get because there's so many records that are just so close to each
Right.
other and so many
Yeah.
games being played. Like the Lions didn't make playoffs because this team didn't beat this team, who didn't beat this team, who didn't beat this team,
Bummer.
and it's the whole thing.
It's such a bummer.
I think there's a word for it. I can't remember the word for it, but yeah, it's
the phrase that I think about when I think about that tier of teams that are like fighting for the wild card, and some are lower, some are higher, is in the hunt. Right? You hear that phrase all the time. I love that phrase. I actually, growing up, I only knew of in the hunt. Like, the years when Buffalo was good, they were in the hunt, and they never scored the hunt. They never got the prey until I was an older lad. But couple quick questions before we steer the ship home. Which coaches are in a make or break year? My options are McCarthy. This is from Armand, by the way, for the audio listeners. McCarthy, Staley, Ron Rivera,
Staley, absolutely,
Josh McDaniels, and Mike Vrabel. Yeah, I think Staley and McCarthy are the top 2. Staley is number 1. You've said this before, Anthony. This man's pants are on fire.
Yeah,
and it ain't from lying. It's just from being on the damn hot seat.
Yeah.
McCarthy's similar. I don't know why this man gets so much leeway from Cowboys fans and from the media. I think he's proven to be kind of overrated as a coach.
I can agree with that.
I don't like him at all. I never liked that hiring, and I think the sooner they move on from him, the better. Ron Rivera, he's still great. He's still got great tendencies. He's really mismanaged the quarterback position, I would say, in Washington. Josh McDaniels too. But I mean, I think he's kind of a lame duck. I don't really see the Raiders having much to say about any of this year. I think they're going to be bad. Vrabel's got job security because he's one of the best coaches in the league.
Right. And they just signed Hopkins. So
yeah, true.
He might be safe for a second.
Pete is dialing into his 2010s team. Elite secondary and great running game. Yeah. Legion of Boom 2, maybe. Legion of Tomb. Horrible. Absolutely awful. I'll see myself out.
I think that's a good place to stop.
The Legion of Tomb. And then, I mean, Rivera only has a job because the ownership hasn't arrived yet. Perennial underachiever. I like Rivera. I think he's good on the defensive side of the ball. And Armand is saying the same thing. The ownership is probably going to be questioning the Rivera regime. We'll see. But Anthony, another successful episode of the Legit Football NFL podcast in the books. We had Joe Crack, we had Armand, we had Thomas, we had a live chat, we had a great discussion. Anthony and I back and forth, very similar top 7s. You could tell we might talk about football together once in a while on this show. Anthony, anything to say to the good people before we wrap this puppy up?
Subscribe to the Legit Football newsletter at legitfootball.com. I love waking up at 6 a.m. and reading one of those. It gets my day started talking about football. So go Lions. And if anyone has any predictions, please post it at Legit Football on Twitter.
Yeah, follow all our socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We go crazy on those. YouTube is live, but everywhere else is too. So Anthony, thank you for helming this episode with me, my brother. We've been crushing this the last couple of weeks. There's nobody I'd rather have by my side for this. And ladies and gentlemen, another episode of the Legit Football NFL podcast is in the books, and we are out.
See ya.